Hi, everybody. This is day 1415, and I'm just apologizing. I'm late. It couldn't be helped because I just got off the phone with a watchdog out of a government watchdog out of Austin. And so here we are, day 1415 days since Richard was murdered on the Fort Bliss footprint. Fort Bliss military installation, huge, very important military installation with all kinds of security that we've paid for. And, you know, what's going on? Why are there breaches in security? Why are there breaches in security everywhere? Right? Um, and so we received um, make sure that I'm on here. We received government confirmation, a notice of death about our son on Fort Bliss, with a casualty report, and absolutely Richard was murdered on the footprint of Fort Bliss. And there's a security breach. There is a security breach because we do not have Richard's remains, yet we have multiple confirmations. Should I say confirmations? Multiple informations from multiple different people that don't even know each other, and these are government agencies, that they have Richard's, at least his partial remains. They have some remains. There is information coming out that those remains have been charred. They had to use the dental records to identify them. And so this is really to identify. Oh, I just went on my Facebook to make sure I was there to see yeah, I see all the comments. See all the comments, because if you want to get the truth, if you want to get real news, um, at least someone that a group Find Richard Halliday, Team Find Richard Halliday, that is trying to give you the absolute truth. Come here, right? Come here. And so, um, the big news on that is, we want to get confirmation on, we want to have Richard's remains. And you don't do this for 4 years and get this story here and this story here from people that are in there, that know, that have the connections and the placement to hear um, what is going on in Richard's case, and they are saying that they have Richard's remains. And it started, of course, with the Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado's father-in-law. Okay, so Nadal Bayim, who is absolutely an FBI agent, an agent of the FBI, connected to FBI Supervisory Director Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr. Um, Nadal Baim is also connected to his son-in-law, Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado, he's connected to a lot of people, okay, who is also connected to Nieto, FBI Supervisory Director Nieto, because Nieto's wife works intelligence on Fort Bliss. So when you have somebody like Nadal Baim saying that the FBI has Richard's remains, and he has connections with the, not just any FBI, but the FBI director there in El Paso, the supervisory director, who is married to Fort Bliss Intelligence, and his son-in-law is a lieutenant colonel in the G3 of the 32nd ATCOM, which is Richard's command. Then, he has credibility. He has huge credibility. And so, and he was just the beginning of the reports about them having Richard's remains. So we're, telling you this is why we keep going, because, yes, we have enough evidence to drive them into giving us the notice of death. And now, we've gotten more and more evidence, and, just submitting it, getting enough ears to hear that we have this evidence that they have our son's remains, will then give us our son's remains. Because remember that we were tampered with not only on Fort Bliss, but also in El Paso, and also in Juarez, in Chihuahua, Mexico. Okay? So, and we have hard evidence of that they tampered, that they targeted our case from Mexico in the Attorney General's office there in Juarez, Mexico, that they tampered with Richard's case in the Fort Bliss CID office, and that we have evidence that they tampered with Richard's case on the FBI supervisory level in El Paso. And that is, really an indication that supports that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss footprint, and that there is a criminal network that is behind this, and that criminal network are the same people that we have hard evidence that are connected to the Walmart mass shooting case. And, so this is really, if there, well, we have good news. The group of those trying to always derail the narrative, hypnotize people away from the truth, away from, and when I say the truth, looking into, following the right trail, following the right information to help get the truth, the treasure of the truth. Because, of course, the truth sets you free, right? The truth sets you free. So, to go and search the right, I guess, treasure map and get to the right place. And it takes a team in this case because of all of the layers of corruption. It's kind of like an onion. You have to peel those layers away. And, you need help to peel those layers away. So that's why I say always we're Team Find Richard Halliday. And, we want to thank everyone that have been sending us all this information, because this group that is trying to redirect the narrative, to hypnotize people in other things that are not really, well, it's all important, but they have been taken down. They've been taken down several times. They are a criminal network, and they use false identities for the most part, and they are targeting Richard's case, Richard, us, threatening, harassing. So anyone that aligns, working behind, now they even admit that they work behind the scenes and call people and all of that. They're working overtime, y'all. I mean, can you imagine? That is, they need to hold up a sign and say, we are involved in Richard Halliday's case and the Walmart case. We're prime suspects for the Walmart case and Richard Halliday case, because all we're doing all the time is trying to cover up for Leilani Hart, who, they don't want to mention her name, and Dallas Hart, who they don't want to mention their name, even though, they're totally involved in, family members teaching how to fly, whatever kind of business that they're in. They're totally connected, and they're working overtime to protect Leilani Hart, to protect Dallas Hart, to protect the gravy train interests that is the trafficking, absolutely the trafficking of child porn, the trafficking, because Leilani Hart even says that they have a problem with child porn, that they're into child porn, and that Dallas Hart is looking for the child porn, and she's even starting to blame other people for it, bringing other people into the case, and yeah, so you know, absolutely was a 7-year-old raped in her master bedroom. Well, she reported that through Tavita Nusa CID to get referred to the FBI, and the FBI accepted it and this report. So, was her family engaged in incest? These are huge crimes. Rape of a 7-year-old, incest in the family, child pornography in their family, buying weapons illegally, messing with what we even got the gunsmith. We know the name of the gunsmith. We know other things in this that would also derail people from focusing on our prime suspects: Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart, and his mother, Leilani Hart. This is very, very important to stay focused on this. And how, why did we bring Danae up in the last couple days? Because she has been the focus of all the news. Why is she on all the news in this Operation Mockingbird kind of scenario, right? Why is she headline news? And I want to tell you, they're very concerned about Danae Katzen. Of course, she didn't even have to stay arrested for like maybe an hour, because she has Luis Rene Diaz in the DA's office, managing the DA's office, right? She has connections within the law enforcement community. And that sounds like Leilani Hart, doesn't it? Leilani Hart had Tavita Nusa, the CID agent. And, it's very interesting that I have on record hours from Marlon Soto talking about Danae Katzen, right? Reporting about Danae Katzen, pleading with him, yelling so many times. I'm like, you need to bring her in. You need to bring her in and hear her story and then tell us what you think. Oh, no. It took him a month to even talk to Danae. You know why? Because he knew her. He knew her. She has connections within the law enforcement, and we absolutely know that she's connected to Luis Rene Diaz, Bill Hicks's office manager in the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office, even though Bill Hicks is a usurper of that office. That's why Danae is important. And that's why she gets this favorable treatment, and she doesn't have to fear. She doesn't fear getting arrested. She doesn't fear committing these crimes. She's young and she didn't care, right? And why did she even get arrested? Right? Was it because of the assault? Was it because of the scam of, these rental houses? No. She got arrested because those that were scamming her called the sheriffs, and the news that we're getting is because she had outstanding warrants. She had outstanding warrants, and that's why she got arrested, right? Because she has this long criminal history of activity and, outstanding warrants. They didn't say, oh, well, this is a civil matter, you have to take it up. No, they're like, oh, wow, she has outstanding warrants, we need to go arrest her. So that was some new news that came out today, that because yesterday I said the sheriffs arrested her. They had to go get the warrants. I mean, they had to go get the warrants somewhere. Well, there were outstanding warrants for her arrest. So I want to make sure that I get that corrected and out there. So the other information that we received is that Jonathan Ambrose has family that works for KTSM, for David Candelera, right? And, so we have KTSM absolutely rubbing shoulders with Dallas Hart, rubbing shoulders with Leilani Hart, rubbing shoulders with Danae Katzen. All right. And from very early on, very early, still before we even went to El Paso, we had detected that we were being told a lot of lies. And so we have kept diaries. We have things on record in multiple different ways, screenshots, everything. My husband has always kept a journal. And so, the daily journal was just part of his life. And so to have that and then to also put things on record is very, very important. And to have Danae linked with Marlon Soto, linked with Leilani Hart, where we know they're linked because of Tavita Nusa, right? Of them working together and linking Dallas Hart. But then, of course, Danae links together what's already been linked together, and that is Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, because Leilani Hart mentions Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia in a way that was not released. It was not for public knowledge. Nobody knew the situation, yet Leilani did, and that meant that article, that coverage, had a little boo-boo in it, maybe not intentionally, but the boo-boo is evidence that Leilani Hart has been talking to Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, right? So, from there, more and more, oh, they're friends. Oh my gosh, they're friends. But Danae Katzen is family with Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. And, they are family. And so, all of this is connected. The Walmart mass shooting case, because Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia is neck deep in it. And, of course, Richard's case. And we know that Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia is from Juarez. We know that she targeted Richard's case. She targeted Richard's case. And Leilani Hart, and I'm going to read all my messages I'm getting, and Leilani Hart targeted Richard's case. And to align, to start another false page, stealing identities, using false identities, using false narratives. And false narratives sometimes can be like giving a little truth there, but leaving out so much other information that the person is left to wander in a different direction. And they're masters at that. And that's called, it's one of the 10 Commandments. It's called thou shalt not bear false witness. And that's what that means, a false witness. It means to only give a little bit of information to mislead the courts, to mislead the public, to mislead, to obstruct justice. And that's what they're trying to do, is to obstruct, to put out this little misinformations to obstruct justice. And they're bearing false witness. There are criminals, they're totally criminals. And of course, fraudsters. And of course, obstructors of justice. And of course, involved in the case of the murder of our son. And so this is really important for everyone to understand the cover up here, the redirection of information, and how Danae Katzen is totally connected to Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, and that means she's connected to David Candelara of KTSM, okay? And they rolled out the red carpet for her, right? They rolled out the red carpet for her. And, so I did not go alone to KTSM. This was absolutely something that we have on record, that is well documented how that all happened. And, she is absolutely part of David Candelara. And of course, David Candelara was with Univision. And at the Univision now, of course, he's with KTSM now, but he was at Univision. And with that, he was working alongside, getting started with, whatever you want to say, however they were employed together there at Univision, with Luis Rene Diaz and also Arturo Alba. And if you haven't looked at the story of Arturo Alba, who was shot down dead in his Texas plated vehicle in Juarez, Mexico, with many shots. I mean, they weren't going to miss him. Let me tell you, they made sure they didn't miss him. They shot that car up. And I remember I was there in El Paso when it happened, and got a report on it. I didn't know of the importance and the connection with Danae Katzen at the time. But, New Mexico also arrested Luis Rene Diaz and Arturo Alba, because they were doing a lot of fraud in New Mexico, election tampering in Mexico, and I even wrote some of this stuff down. I think they got arrested from what I have been told and looking into it, extortion, fake vouchers, right? Doing fake vouchers and bringing in like prostitutes to set up politicians to ruin their life, right? To ruin their chances of being elected. And so we also have from an agency that Arturo Alba was involved in trafficking. And, so he was shot dead because I believe he owed somebody some money. He was so deep in the organized criminal activities. And this is the same person. And he was arrested with Luis Rene Diaz. And these are big, big players here because they're absolutely connected to Danae Katzen and David Candelara and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart, and these are all connected. And there's another connection in this, and that is the LDS. So this is a criminal network, an organized criminal network. And they were all up to no good. You see that in Leilani Hart's life. You see that in Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia's life. You see that in Arturo Alba's life. You see that in Danae Katzen's life. They are absolutely up to no good. They are a criminal group. And to align with them in any way is such a big mistake. Is such a big mistake, especially if you are an Army officer. If you're an Army officer, even if you're in reserves, whatever, you don't align yourself with active criminals, right? With active criminals engaged in criminal activities, especially in the obstruction of justice of a murdered whistleblower soldier on Fort Bliss, right? You don't participate in that. So these were some of my notes. Because the crimes, the reason why. Oh, and who is Luis Reina Diaz? He is the office manager for Bill Hicks in the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office. Okay? People have to know that. Why in the world would Bill Hicks align himself with them? Especially when he is representing Purchase Funeral Homes, right? Before, he said, I guess he let that go. I don't know, but that's who he was connected to. And, so this is all coming together. This, organized criminal network there that is just hurting so many people, and anyone that is bearing false witness and trying to twist this. That's the real story, is the twisting to protect Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart, because they are the prime suspects for the murder of our son. And why would anyone want to align with them unless, they were part of their sex cult group, part of their trafficking group, the organized criminal activity group, and that would include the murder of our son. And also, this connects it all. Bob Moore really connects this whole group to the Walmart case with Richard's case, right? And you just have to watch how he tries to push the narrative around, and you see it clearly what he's trying to do. So the real story behind Danae is the criminal activity, the organized crime that is huge, what is coming out. So let's see. Let me answer all these questions from Danielle. Thank you so much. Anicia, thank you so much for your prayers and your love. Danielle, thank you for your prayers. Thank you so much for all of that. And thank you. God's will be done. Absolutely. To pray is to do is to pray, right? And we have to fight for justice. That's the prayer, right? Is to fight for justice. You have enough evidence to try many for Richard Halliday's murder with no body. Maybe this will be the first capital murder case without Richard Halliday's remains. That's where it's heading, because they will protect themselves, as they'll go so far as to not give us our own son's body, his own son's remains. Yeah, our own son's remains. So it's so very sad. It is so sickening. These sick individuals still trying to change the narrative. They got taken down. It started with that Haley Separatio, and then, they added more and more and more, and each time they got caught, and they expose, and they give us more information and more. Every time they do things like this, it gives us more and more evidence. But we still can't let them commit crimes doing it, so we report it. But they are absolutely, they look ridiculous. And, Richard, we're a Gold Star family. Richard absolutely is a whistleblower. Absolutely, the government says Richard was murdered on the Fort Bliss footprint. Right? I mean, we've got it. And they are still full of vile and vulgar responses, spending, working overtime, trying to protect names they can't even mention. And that's Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart. The need to release Richard Halliday's partial remains. They need to, yes. What if this was their child, brother, father, friend? They don't operate in families. They really don't. They just operate, their minds, their priorities operate in power. That's power to destroy. Destruction, death and destruction. That's how they, that's why they can bully and harass and, that's how they operate. They don't understand how we love one another in our families. They just don't understand it. Which is, makes you pity them. But this is understanding where they're coming from and how this crime can perpetuate, and what even, what's our society coming to, that we have these kind of psychopaths, these absolutely sex cultists. They're sex cultists. They care about power, money, and sex cult activities. Seems like it. And LDS is in the middle of it. LDS absolutely needs to contact us and respond to our letters. Yeah. At least sent a condolence, right? I don't know. They seem to be in trouble. So maybe she was the one trying to use Richard Halliday's credit cards and tried to blame the soldier, in my opinion. Oh, we have it all on record. Talking to Marlon Soto, dirty Marlon Soto. Bring her in. Figure this out. Tell us what you're training. You're supposed to be a trained CID. You're the CID lead there. Talk to her. That's what you're supposed to do when you're investigating Richard's case. And then tell us what you think. And that would be one of the biggest questions, is who was really using the credit cards, who took the credit cards. Because Richard's things, absolutely, we suspect that a lot of things were stolen. Okay. All the evildoers have inserted theirself in this case to try to clear their guilty conscience. Yes, absolutely. And they all should be held accountable to the crime or accessories to the crime. Oh, yeah. And Richard's murder was not the crime. Okay? The murder of Richard was a necessity to cover up the crime. They never counted it as like a crime. They were like, oh, Richard did this, right? So it was just like they just had to do it. They just had to get rid of him. They just had to. This is in all screenshots when they're harassing me, when they're phoning, leaving messages and stuff like that. It comes out. We have judged him already. We judged him, and now we know he's dead, right? Because they already judged him. And so really what happened to Richard is like their judgment against Richard. It's not the crime that they're trying to cover up. The crime they're trying to cover up is the trafficking, right? The child pornography, the child sex trafficking, the human trafficking, the narcotics trafficking, the bringing hookers on base, right? I want to bring hookers on and I want to sell these drugs to these young soldiers that get a paycheck. They get a paycheck and they get $20,000 every so often. We know exactly the schedule, and they want to take advantage of our volunteer sons and daughters and lead them astray and sell them things that will hurt them, that will make them weaker as service members, as soldiers, as defenders of the Constitution. They want to weaken them and weaken them. That's why they bring on these young girls, 14-year-old girls leaving in the barracks to pimp out. And, during the COVID, girls, um, they want to make it a very weak force. It is an assault on our military. They target our military members, and they're pros. They've been doing it for a long time to even get the contracts and all of that it comes to the military installation. And very, very clear that they target our soldiers. And those are the crimes: the trafficking, the drugs, the weapon smuggling, the ammunition smuggling, the 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 bulletproof vests. The bulletproof vests. They love to smuggle those. So yeah, Richard, and I've been talking so much, sorry. Richard threatened their gravy train of organized criminal activity. And it connected to Fort Bliss, and it connected to the Walmart mass shooting, and it connected to the murder of Richard. That is the major point. And Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart are totally involved in it, and they are the prime suspects in the murder of Richard. That is what people need to know. They have to face God one day, yes. They should be charged with persuading witnesses. Yes, and they tamper with witnesses. And absolutely, we have lots of screenshots. It's not only a key witness that they tampered with, and they didn't succeed, but we also have screenshots where they absolutely, people that were in favor of finding Richard, they would feed them false narratives, they would bully them, harass them, all of that. They're working overtime. They're working overtime because they know that they don't have time. They don't have much time left. Time is short. And, and Bill Hicks' time is short. We got notification on that. We have multiple I want to say avenues of exposing Bill Hicks and getting him removed from office that we've been working on. So yeah, it's just a matter of time. It's not if, it's when. Just like the notice of death. It was never if, it was when it would come. And so that is really important for people to know and look at Arturo Alba in connection with David Candelara, in connection with Luis Rene Diaz, in connection with Arturo Alba and David Candelara at Univision. And now you have Luis Rene Diaz working as the office manager for Bill Hicks, and Arturo Alba is shot dead, and David Candelara is kissing up to Danae, right? And others, determining how he's going to put forth a narrative. So, yeah, that's really important information. Yes, they have to face God one day. Richard Halliday, the very first CONUS Des Moines missing soldier. Yes. They inserted themselves. Absolutely. It wasn't 2 days that we were in El Paso and Danae called us. And this is all on record. Everything's on record with her. And that's why, the phone call that was in the truck is right there on record. And it's on Facebook. But we have more records. And, the whole KTSM time is on record. And, so, yeah, she targeted our family. And she knows Rosa Maria and Leilani Hart. She knows Leilani Hart also, not just because, but also through the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Because there are screenshots. There was a time when they still left their Facebook up. So, yeah. Facebook can be a very good thing for solving crime. And, so it's a very positive development. We've had so many positive developments in the last few days. So that's why you see that they have a need to, respond. They're responding to our successes. And, there's just a lot going on behind the scenes. For example, I can tell you one. We got confirmation that Joanne Bernal will not even wait for her resignation date because, she had put in, I think a month ago, her intention to resign. But now she's just like, no, I want out tomorrow, right? So she is absolutely resigning. I think that's happening in the next few days, much earlier than what was planned for her resignation. And she is the county attorney, the county commissioner's attorney, which is the one that brought forth the federal case against Governor Abbott and Bill Hicks. And, so she wants out. She wants out because of her connection with Mario Raskin Ortiz, right? The medical examiner, and Veronica Escobar. So, yeah, this is an organized criminal network, and we're getting to the bottom of it. So please, the way you can help is to share, to like, and to comment. Thank you so much. And we're moving forward. We love you, and we couldn't do this without you. So please share. Thank you. God bless, and I will be back.